Welcome back to the Growl with Hank, Episode 10, Double Digits. I am your host, Hank Brewski, and I want to take 10 seconds before we get to the news. If you have been with me since Episode 1, thank you. If you found this show last week, welcome. Either way, today marks 10 weeks, 10 Tuesdays. Hank has not missed a single one, and that is not because of me, it is because of you, the people who hit subscribe, the people who leave reviews, the people who share clips with their dad, with their veteran brother, with their coworker who is trying to make sense of this world. You built this show. I just put on a flannel. Okay, now to the news. Because the news did not stop while I was feeling sentimental. Yesterday afternoon, 2 US Navy fighter jets collided mid-air at an air show in Idaho. All 4 crew members ejected and survived. The planes did not. President Xi warned Trump in Beijing that mishandling Taiwan could mean conflict between the 2 largest militaries on Earth. The head of the FDA was forced out over flavored vapes for kids. And Senate Parliamentarian killed a billion-dollar provision tied to Trump's new White House ballroom. Plus, Ebola is back. Yes, Ebola. The World Health Organization declared a public health emergency over the weekend because 2026 keeps adding flavors of chaos. And gas. Just for the record, $4.53 a gallon as of this morning, up from $4.16 just 2 weeks ago. Coffee up. Let us get to it. Time for the Bears Brew. 4 stories. Let us go. Sunday afternoon, May 17th, 12:10 p.m. Mountain Time. Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. The Gunfighter Skies Air Show was in full swing. Families on blankets, kids with their fingers in their ears. A grandfather pointing up at the sky telling his grandson, "Look at that boy, that is the United States Navy." 2 EA-18G Growler jets from the Navy's Electronic Attack Squadron 129, based out of Whidbey Island, Washington, were performing an aerial demonstration. Beautiful jets. The Growler is a variant of the F-18 Super Hornet, designed for electronic warfare, finding and jamming enemy radar. And in front of thousands of spectators with cameras rolling, the 2 jets touched. Not a clean breakaway, they locked together in mid-air, one on top of the other. For a couple of seconds, they were essentially one aircraft, climbing together, stalling out together. Then, all 4 aviators ejected. 4 parachutes opened. The jets cartwheeled to the ground and exploded. Here is the good news. All 4 crew members survived. They got medical checks. They are stable. Nobody on the ground was hurt. 4 good shoots. That is the announcer's exact phrase from the loudspeaker. 4 good shoots. Now I want to tell you why this matters beyond the obvious. I am a veteran. I have been around aircraft, and what you saw yesterday is not random. It is the second major U.S. military aviation incident in 2 weeks. Last week, a U.S. Air Force F-35 made an emergency landing in the UAE after declaring an in-flight emergency near the Strait of Hormuz. A $110 million aircraft. 2 incidents involving some of the most advanced and expensive military aircraft on Earth. I am not saying the Navy or the Air Force is broken. I am saying we are flying these planes a lot. We are stretching them, and the crews who fly them across the Iran war, the Pacific deterrence missions against China, training exercises like the one yesterday. The Pentagon's own Inspector General flagged maintenance backlogs on Navy and Air Force jets back in March. NBC reported last week that the Defense Department has not signed new contracts to replenish munitions stocks for Iran operations. Stocks are dangerously low. When you stretch a military this thin for this long, things start to fall apart. People get tired. Equipment gets used past its maintenance schedule. Pilots fly more hours than they should. The Idaho crash will get investigated. Most likely it will turn out to be a routine cause, a timing issue, a formation drift. But the bigger story is that this is the second incident in 2 weeks, and we are still in the middle of an unfinished war. Pray for those 4 aviators and their families tonight. They walked away. Not everyone does. Story number 2. Thursday, May 14th. Beijing. The Great Hall of the People. President Trump and President Xi Jinping met for over 2 hours. First sitting U.S. president to visit China since 2017. Trump brought with him Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent from Treasury, Tim Cook from Apple, Elon Musk from Tesla, and Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. A who's who of American business and government. Trump walked in praising Xi, called him a, quote, great leader and, quote, friend, invited Xi to the White House in September. The Chinese welcomed Trump with leaping schoolchildren and a military honor band. Pomp, smiles, big gestures. And then Xi opened the meeting with this, quote, the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-US relations. He said if Taiwan is handled improperly, the two countries could end up in, quote, clashes and even conflicts. That is straight from Chinese state media. Folks, the president of China just publicly warned the president of the United States that if we step wrong on Taiwan, we end up at war. Not figurative war, conflict, clashes. Those are not casual words from a head of state. Why does this matter to you? Because Taiwan makes 60% of the world's semiconductors. The chips in your phone, the chips in your car, the chips in the AI systems running this very podcast. If China and Taiwan get into a fight, the global economy stops. Not slows down, stops. What about Iran? Trump said publicly that Xi offered to help mediate with Iran, that Xi agreed Iran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz, that Xi pledged not to send military equipment to Tehran. Then Marco Rubio went on NBC and said, quote, we are not asking for China's help. We do not need their help. The administration is sending two different messages. Are we asking China for help or not? Even our own officials cannot agree. Trump also told Hannity that China agreed to purchase 200 Boeing jets. That would be a massive deal for American manufacturing. Boeing has been struggling. 200 jets would change Seattle. Whether that deal actually closes, we will see. Here is my take. Trump wanted Xi to pressure Iran. Xi wanted Trump to back off on Taiwan. The result of the summit is essentially both leaders saying, we hear you. Neither one committed to anything firm. The cameras came out, the dinner happened, the Boeing deal got teased, and both leaders flew home. The Iran ceasefire is still on life support, Taiwan is still a flashpoint, and our wallets still feel it. Story number 3, and this one is going to make some parents growl. Tuesday, May 12th. Dr. Marty Makary, the head of the Food and Drug Administration, resigned, or was forced out, depending on who you ask. Trump told reporters, quote, everybody wants that job. He is a terrific guy. He is going to go on. Trump would not say whether Makary was fired or resigned, but the reporting since then has made clear he was pushed out. Why? Because Makary had been blocking the approval of fruit-flavored e-cigarettes, the kind that look like USB drives, the kind that taste like watermelon, mango, and cotton candy, the kind that are obviously designed to appeal to teenagers and kids. Tobacco industry executives and lobbyists leaned on Trump and his team to expand access to flavored vaping products. According to NBC, Trump, quote, personally upbraided Makary over the issue. The FDA eventually authorized the flavored vapes after Trump intervened. Days later, Makary resigned. And here is the part most people are not connecting. Listeners of Episode 6, you remember Makary. He was the FDA chief standing in the Oval Office in April when Joe Rogan and Trump signed the executive order fast-tracking psychedelic therapies for veterans with PTSD. We celebrated that. I celebrated that. The man helping veterans get access to ibogaine and psilocybin just lost his job because he tried to keep kid-marketed flavored vapes off the shelves. He was not the only one to resign. The chief spokesman for Health Secretary RFK Jr., Rich Danker, also resigned the next day in protest. Danker said, quote, authorizing flavored e-cigarettes would draw more children into vaping and increase their risk for a number of health issues, from addiction to cancer. Trump's replacement at the FDA? Kyle Diamantis. He has no medical background. He was an attorney who represented Abbott Laboratories, a baby formula manufacturer. He is a personal friend of Donald Trump Jr. The acting head of the FDA is a corporate lawyer and family friend with no medical degree. That is who is now overseeing the agency that regulates 20% of the U.S. economy. Look, I am not a public health expert, but I am a dad, and here is what I know. Fruit-flavored vapes are not for adults trying to quit smoking. Adults who want to quit can use unflavored nicotine patches or gum, or even mint vapes. Watermelon and bubblegum flavors exist for one reason: to hook kids. That is the only reason that flavor exists. And the United States government just removed the man who was trying to stop it because tobacco lobbyists asked Trump nicely. Last story. And this one is just remarkable. Senate Parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, the official referee who makes sure Senate rules get followed, ruled on Saturday that a $1 billion provision had to come out of the budget reconciliation bill. What was the $1 billion for? Quote, White House security, with language that includes upgrades to Trump's planned new White House ballroom. Yes, you heard that right. While the country has been arguing over whether to fund FEMA, while we just came off a 76-day DHS shutdown where TSA officers worked without pay, while Spirit Airlines collapsed and Mountain Home Air Force Base is dealing with a crash investigation today, the Senate quietly slipped $1 billion into a budget bill, partly tied to a White House ballroom. The parliamentarian called it. She said it did not qualify under the rules for budget reconciliation, which is the special process Republicans wanted to use to pass the bill without needing 60 votes. So now the $1 billion either gets stripped out or Republicans find another way to pay for it. And by the way, in the same week, Trump-aligned Senator Bill Cassidy got dumped in Louisiana. Cassidy was one of the 7 Republican senators who voted to convict Trump after January 6th. Trump endorsed his opponent, Representative Julia Letlow, and called her on Saturday night. Cassidy is out. He goes to a runoff, but the writing is on the wall. Trump is methodically cleaning out the Republicans who crossed him in 2021. That is not Hank's opinion. That is just the math. Whether you support Trump or not, the lesson is the same. The American political party system is being remade in real time. The Republican Party of 2026 is not the Republican Party of 2020. And if you do not pay attention, you will not recognize it in 2028. Pause and effect time. And today I want to go back to the Navy jets in Idaho, because that story is bigger than yesterday's headlines. It is about something I care about deeply as a veteran: military readiness. Let me give you the picture. In the last 12 weeks of this show, while Hank has been on the mic, our military has been engaged in operations across 4 major theaters simultaneously. 1. The Iran War, now in its 11th week. 2 carrier strike groups deployed to the Gulf. Naval blockade enforcement, Project Freedom escort operations. Pacific Command sent additional assets. 2. Pacific deterrence against China. The Navy has been conducting freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. Air Force has been running Pacific bomber rotations. With the Taiwan warning last week, that posture is going to ramp up, not down. 3. Continued operations in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb against the Houthis. Anti-piracy and shipping protection. 4. The normal stuff. Training exercises, air shows, NATO commitments, border deployments domestically, hurricane response, wildfire support. And on top of that, we just announced we are pulling 5,000 troops out of Germany. Why? To redirect them somewhere else. The strain is real. Here are the numbers that should worry every American. The Pentagon Inspector General flagged in March that Navy F-18 squadrons are flying 25% more hours than the recommended maintenance schedule allows. NBC News reported last week that the Department of Defense has not signed new contracts to replenish munitions stocks. We are using more bombs than we are buying. We are flying more hours than we are maintaining. The retired Air Force Brigadier General who was on NBC last week called the situation, quote, dangerously low. Those are his words, not mine. What happens when a military gets stretched too thin? History tells us 2 things happen. The first is accidents. Crews tired. Equipment overused. Mistakes happen. We saw that in the Air Force after the Iraq surge years. We saw it in the Navy after the Pacific Tempo of 2017, when 2 destroyers had collisions and 17 sailors died. The crash in Idaho yesterday is, statistically, on schedule. The second thing is recruiting collapse. When current service members are stretched too thin, they tell their kids and their friends not to enlist. Word gets around. Recruiting numbers drop. The Army missed its recruiting target 2 of the last 3 years. The Navy and Air Force have been struggling too. So what is the answer? Well, that is the trillion-dollar question, literally. Either we shrink our commitments and stop putting our military in so many places at once, or we dramatically increase the size and budget of our military to handle what we are asking of them. Right now, we are doing neither. We are asking a peacetime-size force to do wartime work in 4 theaters simultaneously. And the bill is coming due. Congress has not had a serious debate about this since the early 2000s. Both parties have been complicit in expanding our military commitments without expanding our military resources. And the people paying the bill are the 4 aviators who ejected from those growlers yesterday. And the next 4. And the next. What can you do? 2 things. Number 1. If you have a kid considering military service, do not steer them away. We need good people in uniform. But do help them ask the right questions. What is the operational tempo of the unit? What is the maintenance status of the equipment? How many deployments in the last 3 years? Good recruiters will answer those questions honestly. Bad ones will dodge. Pay attention. Number 2. Call your representatives. Ask them what their position is on the size and budget of the US military. Ask them whether they support a serious authorization for use of military force vote on Iran. Ask them whether they are funding munitions replenishment. These are not exciting questions. They will not make TikTok, but they matter. I served. The men and women in uniform today deserve a country that takes their service seriously, not one that uses them as set dressing for tweets and ballrooms. Time for the growl. And this week I am going to put 2 stories side by side, because side by side, you cannot miss what they say about us. Story 1. We just came out of a 76-day shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, the longest agency shutdown in American history. 50,000 TSA officers worked for over 2 months without paychecks. Some of them got eviction notices. Some of them quit. Spring break travelers stood in 4-hour security lines. The Coast Guard rationed fuel. FEMA preparedness slipped during the start of tornado season. Real Americans suffered for 76 days. Story 2. This past week, the Senate slipped a $1 billion provision into a budget reconciliation bill, officially for, quote, White House security, unofficially, partly tied to Trump's planned new White House ballroom. The Senate Parliamentarian had to step in and strike it from the bill because it did not qualify under the rules. The provision was so out of line with what budget reconciliation is supposed to be that the official referee threw a flag. Now, put those 2 stories next to each other in your head. Hold them right there. Both of them are true. Both happened in the last 90 days. We could not fund TSA for 76 days because both parties were too stubborn to compromise. But somebody had $1 billion sitting around for a White House ballroom, and they tried to sneak it through under the radar. I want to be clear, this is not partisan. This happens under every administration of my lifetime. When was the last time you saw Congress fund veteran mental health care at the level we have been talking about? When was the last time you saw a real budget for fixing the bridge in your hometown? When was the last time we paid TSA officers what they actually deserve? Almost never. But the same Congress that drags its feet on the basics finds money for the things that benefit the powerful. Every time. And here is what got me yelling. The FDA chief got pushed out this week because he tried to keep flavored vapes off the shelves. Vapes designed to look like candy, watermelon, mango, bubble gum, so that 14-year-old kids get hooked, so that big tobacco can replace the customers they lose every year when older smokers die, so that next decade, big tobacco can keep paying lobbyists. And the United States government just removed the doctor trying to stop them, because Trump got upbraided by lobbyists into doing it. We are funding ballrooms instead of veterans. We are letting big tobacco design flavors for our kids. We are signing letters declaring wars over, while the wars keep going. Our jets are colliding mid-air because we are flying them past their maintenance schedule. And our default response, as a country, is to argue on social media about who is worse, the left or the right. Folks, I have been doing this show for 10 weeks, 10 episodes, and every single week I have to come up with a new growl. But the truth is, the growl is always the same. Our country is suffering from a leadership class that does not feel the consequences of its decisions. Politicians do not stand in 4-hour TSA lines. Lobbyists do not have kids hooked on watermelon vapes. Defense contractors do not fly the planes that crashed in Idaho yesterday. If you want a better country, hold the leaders accountable. Not the other side, your side. Because the other side is doing its own version of this same nonsense. And until both sides feel the pressure from their own voters, the ballrooms keep getting funded, and the TSA officers keep going broke, and the kids keep getting hooked, and the jets keep cracking up. That is my growl. 10 weeks in, same growl every week. That is episode 10 of the Growl with Hank. Quick recap. 2 US Navy Growler jets collided mid-air at a Mountain Home Idaho air show yesterday. All 4 aviators ejected safely. The crash investigation is underway. Xi Jinping warned Trump in Beijing that mishandling Taiwan could mean clashes and even conflicts between the world's 2 largest militaries. FDA Chief Marty Makary was forced out over his attempt to block fruit-flavored vapes for kids. Senate Parliamentarian killed a $1 billion provision tied to Trump's new White House ballroom. Senator Bill Cassidy got dumped in Louisiana. Ebola is back in Central Africa, and gas hit $4.53 nationally. If this episode hit you, share it, especially the Navy jet story and the readiness conversation. Because the people most affected by it, the men and women still serving in uniform, do not have a megaphone. We do. And listen. 10 weeks ago, I was just an animated bear with a microphone and a dream. Today, you have made this show into something I am genuinely proud of. We are growing every week, subscribers up, reviews up, clips getting shared, people DMing me with thanks. I see all of it. I read all of it. Thank you. If you have not subscribed yet, today is a good day. Episode 10 Milestone Special. Hit that button. Leave a review if you have not. Share this episode with one person who needs honest news without the spin. Subscribe wherever you listen: YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple TV if you want to watch it on the big screen. Wherever. We are everywhere. Here is to the next 10 episodes. Same time, same bear, same growl. I am Hank Brewski. This is The Growl. Stay sharp, stay free, and I will see you next Tuesday.